Hello and welcome. It's Alexa Linton here, your host for the Whole Horse Podcast. We're here to look at all the ways that the horse industry is changing before our very eyes in very cool, very amazing ways. And we're chatting with the people at the forefront of that change, the professionals, the trainers, the body workers, the researchers that are helping our lives with horses become better and better. Thanks for being here. I love that you're here and listening and learning. And if you ever have a guest that you want to suggest or a topic that you want to hear, just let me know and I'd love to hear from you. Thanks for listening. It means a lot. Hi, everyone. It's Alexa Linton here, and you're back on the Whole Horse Podcast. Today on the podcast, I have a favorite coming back. Lockie Phillips is here with me. Welcome, Lockie.
Oh, that's really nice to hear you saying that. That's really nice of you.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's very, very funny. Actually, I had one gal in the apprenticeship. She literally, her comment on your webinar was, "I love Lockie." I was like, I need to send this along, and I haven't yet, so I'll have to do that. But no, it's your work is really landing in a big way for a lot of horse people. And this past week you posted, I guess it would be a little over a week ago, you posted about mares, and
Yeah.
I think it's safe to say that that post went viral.
Yeah. I just got fed up, and I just did what I always do, which is just running my mouth on social media and triggering people left, right, and center. But in this case, I managed to just kind of align for people, because if you follow me on my social media, what I do is I talk about what I do with horses. That's what I do. And I'm able to talk, I hope, most of the time well about it, because I have, well, one of my biggest strengths since a kid was my literacy and my writing skills. And I was always thrown into extension programs for like reading and writing as a kid. So I've got this ability to describe what I do in a good way, but that's what I do on social media. And if you follow me on social media, it's not if, but when I trigger you on a certain subject, because I'm an equal opportunities abuser. I will talk about everything. So I'm both a proponent of positive reinforcement and I'm critical of it. Both can be true. I'm a proponent and I'm critical of pressure and release. Both can be true. So I kind of sit the fence and I can look at the positives and negatives. So usually what I do is I write posts which lose me followers rather than gain them. But in this case, I just ran my mouth about mares because I just got fed up about seeing just another stupid post about mares. And it just sort of struck a chord with people, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, being a mare, I don't even know if that's the appropriate thing to say, but I pretty much only have mares in my immediate horse circle. And that's been the case for a really long time. Since Diva came into my life, it's like almost 19 years ago now. And so since then, for whatever reason, this is, my connection is with mares. And so I think for many people, that was the chord that you struck, because they're like, they have these deep connections with their mares, and they get frustrated that they're so misunderstood and
absolutely
labeled and called names, frankly. Like, I remember when Diva first came into my life, and one of the main vets in the area, the gal that sold her to me was like, "Oh, T won't work on her. He thinks she's terrible," and it was like this sense of, that's a big judgment for someone, for a 4-year-old mare that's still kind of learning and growing, and it really hit me hard. I was like, oh, that's kind of yucky that's the stamp that's been put on her. So can you share a little bit about what kind of got your back up? I'm sure it's been a few things over the years, but what for you brought this on?
So I mean, it's been brought on for years, but more recently I had a couple of clients that came to me with mares. In particular, one client came to me and did some coaching calls with me, and they had a 2.5-year-old BLM Mustang filly. And they said, I did the Mustang makeover with her, like all work in hand, halter training. She was amazing. She's like my best pal. And then like 3, 4 months ago, she just kind of like had this whole character change. And she just sort of turned into this like raging, biting, rearing nightmare. And I went, how old is she? And they said, 2.5, and went, oh, she probably just had her first cycle. And it hadn't occurred to them that she had just had her first cycle and that this sudden behavioral reversal and devolution of her behavior could be tied into just being not hormonal, but in friggin' pain, right?
Yeah.
So there was that. And that was kind of like, that sort of started my brain thinking. And then I actually did a post like about 2 weeks ago on ear positions because I was getting a little
Yes.
bit tired of
Yep.
people saying when the ears are not anything yet fixed forward, the ears must be fixed forward for the horse to be happy. And anytime the ears depart that fixed forward position, it means the horse is not happy. And I thought, well, that's kind of a silly way to look at an incredibly complex creature. I mean, yes, when the ears are forward, it can mean that the horse is happy, but it doesn't only mean that. So I was like exploring that subject with a post, and someone on my Facebook actually commented on the, because I had three diagrams: ears forward, ears half back, ears flat pinned. Someone commented on my Facebook page under the pinned ear photo. They tagged a friend and they said, oh, this is your mare, laughy face, laughy face. And I just went, oh no, not on my watch. No, you can do that on another page, but when you come on my platform that I have really slowly built, and it has been a slow burn with my platforms, right? And they are still very, very small. When you're on my platform, on my turf, I control the atmosphere there because it is a place that some people go to feel seen, feel honored, find their community, and feel safe there, that they don't think I'm going to hold space for that kind of conversation. So I just had it, right? I'd had it. So I wrote a post about it. Should I just read the post about mares? Should I just read it?
Let's do it. Yeah, because there's more than likely quite a few people that have not read it yet. So yeah.
So it was on 9th of Feb, which was, almost 2 weeks ago. Okay, PSA, public service announcement. I will not hold space for commentary about mares in the pejorative, the critical, or the funny, quote, funny. Something that we see a lot on social media is a photo or a video of a mare displaying very unhappy or uncomfortable emotional expression, and comments underneath with laughing faces and stuff like, typical mare, ugh, the struggle is real, grumpy mare stare. I appreciate the sense of humor, and maybe I'm a total buzzkill for squashing it. What others do on other platforms is none of my business, but if that sort of commentary and attitude finds its way onto my platforms, I will squash it and let it be known that I will not tolerate it. Why? The first horse I ever rode was a mare. The first horses and ponies I ever loved were mares. The first horses that ever showed me how powerful feel and emotional connection is were mares. I respect and love mares the same way I respect and love all horses. Do mares have a higher tendency of certain behaviors which people can find problematic and use humor to navigate their way through managing them? Yes. Using humor to cope with something difficult is fine. Making fun of and laughing at a mare, not okay. A sexually entire animal just like a stallion, yet rarely treated with the same degree of care, expertise, and specific support, mares have the biological gift of giving life and perpetuating the species. Then they are the primary caregiver for their offspring, teacher and guide for their families and herd. In some recorded natural cases, mares stay with their offspring for life. Between the ages of 2 and 3, a filly will have her first cycle, her season. Her body will begin to attack her with pain, mood swings, hormonal surges, and chronic discomfort. In a human, we can explain and understand in the abstract why this is happening, and even with that understanding, it is hard enough. I've been told, right? I don't know myself, right? But I've been told that it's hard enough. A horse doesn't necessarily understand why she has these out of nowhere pain episodes. She will become aversive to touch. Any touch of her body brings awareness to the body that betrayed her, and she doesn't know why. She may show unwillingness to move with and unite with her body. She will become very protective of her personal space, of her resources. It can be like her own body traumatizes her. This umbrella explanation has a trickle-down effect into thousands of ways that people might find mares, quote, difficult. I do not laugh at these mares. I endeavor to support them. Do I allow mares then to intimidate me so that they can control the scenario? No, but I will try to help these mares to find the best possible coping strategies through these episodes and look to people to support her. A mare I worked with a lot in the past comes to my mind. She was a 6-year-old Anglo-Arab mare I spent a lot of time working with, who is very typical of the, quote, mare problem people often laugh or lament at. One day she would do absolutely everything asked of her with joy and vigor. The next day, same place, same time, same asks, she would rear and strike at me. I would hold space, made sure she expressed herself on her territory, not mine. Then I would ask something very simple and easy of her, then finish. My next job was to take her to the barn, give her an enormous pile of hay that she didn't have to compete for, a quiet and calm space, and give her a gentle massage for an hour or two. She sighed and looked at me. If she spoke English, she would have said, "Thank you." Instead of reinforcing her bad behavior, this mare came to see me as a safe place. At least I think so. A facilitator of helping her navigate her own effective experience. A human that honors her rather than pushing, laughing, misjudging, and labeling her. She became easier to work with. Her expressive tools became less dangerous, not more. Next time she needed to tell me, "I am finding it all hard today," she didn't rear and strike. It was just a face and a tail swish. I listened and triggered my mare support protocol. A quiet place, lots of hay, time relaxing, and a massage, which didn't involve training so much as it involved care. But care is the essential base level for ethical and easy training of horses. It might be a glib thing to say, regardless, it is true. Horses need to embody the understanding that you care, that you give a shit before you ask for shit. So that is why I do not hold space for aggressive and patronizing rhetoric about mares on my platforms. I care deeply about mares. I care enough not to make a game of them at their expense, but to honor them and learn from them. And the post has had an organic reach of, in this moment, 93,200 something people, which I think it is viral. So
I would say that is viral, and it's amazing, and it's really interesting how it lands, like having you speak that out, because I've read it, but when you read something, it's kind of, I think as humans, we tend to read what we want to read. We don't always take it all in. So that was really powerful to have that. And I'm also I take a lot in through my sense of hearing. So that was really amazing to have that come in that way. And I think where it hits me right now is as a woman, and as a woman that's approaching my perimenopausal time, and as a woman that suffers from fibroids and other fun things, it's taken me this long. I'm almost 42. It's taken me this long to actually book time off during my cycle, especially during the first 2 days, because I am like a different human. I'm sore. I'm grumpy. It does not help that, we're going to get real here, everyone, that I have excessive bleeding and all those things. So iron levels and everything. And I'm sure there's other people that can relate to that, even in those days, do we feel like riding? Not really, like not hard, not doing anything super strenuous, especially because there's so much energy going into this other process that's happening in our body, right? And so
Absolutely.
it's that for me, yeah, the most comforting thing is if my partner goes, hey, do you need a back massage? Can I run you a bath? Can I
Yeah.
get you some chocolate? Like
Yeah.
that for me
Yeah.
is like, oh, thank you. Oh my goodness. That I don't
Yeah.
have anything else I have to think about, that I have to worry about, that I have to do, because I just don't have the bandwidth in that
Right.
5 days. Right. And so I think that was one place where it's so interesting because the majority, at least here, of horse people are women. And I don't know if it's the same there, but I think that's pretty common. But I think
Mm.
this is like even something that I've kind of missed. I don't always know when my mares are cycling. Like I have
Mm.
Diva, she doesn't display a lot of big symptomology around it. Things are pretty cruisy for her that way as a general rule
Yeah.
that I can see, right? But I'm sure if we pay more attention, there's more symptomology than we realize in those moments as well, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And I mean, listen, one of the most common comments I got on the post was, especially on Facebook, was people saying something to the effect of, and I'm paraphrasing, why don't more women get this about mares? Or it makes me really sad when I see a woman having a go at a mare for being female. And one thing I really don't like and I try to stay away from is making horsemanship, especially the ethical revolution of horsemanship, a gender-based subject. I don't stand for any kind of anything that demonizes men, demonizes women, demonizes any gender on any level, or generalizes or puts into boxes certain gender roles, certain gender norms, or does anything that perpetuates the gender binary in the horsemanship world is something I really don't stand for. And as much as this post about mares has gone viral in a really positive way for me. I wrote a post last year that I got cancelled for about let's not make this about gender. And I admit it was really bad timing because I wrote it just at the time of the Texas women's rights crisis. I had no idea because I was living underneath a horse rock in the mountains in Spain, shoveling shit for 4 hours a day. I did not know what was happening in the world. My ignorance, my bad timing. But I got totally cancelled for writing that post. I got shadow banned for it because someone would have reported it on some level for just saying, hey guys, let's try not to make this about gender. Let's just make this about individuals. Let's not make gender a thing. Let's not do a cool boys club. Let's not do a cool girls club. Let's not do demonizing one gender, demonizing the other, right? I am an LGBTQIA plus person, right? But at the same time, I'm also a cis white male. So I check my privilege at the door before I check my lack of privilege or my repression in a way. So I don't go on and on about representation of LGBTQIA community within the equestrian world because God knows we need it. Because some of actually the biggest equestrian influencers on social media are so clearly a gay couple living together, but they don't do any representation for their community whatsoever because their fan, and now I'm really coming out with guns blazing, and maybe I shouldn't be saying this, because their fan base is young teenage girls and they're good looking guys. And they've been told, of course, on some level, like I have been told, don't go there with your identity because you will lose your audience. There is an actual thing on Instagram. It's like I don't know exactly the word for it. I will circle back to you and give you the actual terminology for it. It's actually like not like a trigger filter, but it's like a sensitive content filter on Instagram in particular. And there's a number of things Instagram algorithm has placed underneath the sensitive content filter. And one of those things is LGBTQIA plus content. So if you're a gay person a lesbian, transgender, intersex, HIV positive, and you post something on social media representing who you are, your content on many people's profiles will be automatically filtered out. Okay. And this is a filter. You can just go into your settings and turn it off. So I know that my identity holds me back on so many levels. I know that who I am in the world and who I was born to be will cause a whole range of people to just never work with me, not because of my skills, not because of what I can do for them, but because of who I am. But I don't lead with that on my platforms. So at the same time, I don't make it about gender. Now, every now and then I will come up to bat for mares because mares are the best. They are kick ass, right? It's always the mares that are going to deliver us sometimes the best messages. I've seen so many mares that lived lives of extreme punishment, and they knew that they were going to get beat up for doing what they did. And you know what? They did it anyway.
Oh, yeah.
They just flipped the person the bird and said, what you're doing to me is so reprehensible, but I'm going to do it anyway because I have to be true to myself and I know I'm going to get punished for it. Holy cow, when I meet a male like that and I go, I know what you've been through. And Jesus, I lay down in front of you. I am humble before you because, oh my God, it gives me shivers to think about it, that they knew they would get punished and they stood up for themselves anyway.
Yep. Diva was that.
They didn't give in.
Was that.
They didn't give in. I will go down fighting. And the old saying, and we shudder to think where this saying comes from, something like, a stallion or a gelding will go to battle, go to war for you, but a mare will lay down her life in battle for you. We shudder to think where that came from, because it probably has very real roots.
Yeah.
But it's true. So when I see people making really crappy, dumb comments about mares, I just think, wow, it is wild out there. And do what you want out there, but not on my watch, not on my turf, not on my watch.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I'm remembering back to 19 years ago and I was was an idiot, honestly. Especially when it came to horses. And that was when Diva came into my life and that exact thing happened where she was like, I do not tolerate this kind of treatment from you. I will not tolerate it. And it was like, and she would put me through the ringer, like eye-opening experiences. I remember one day and I was being terrible and we were out on a trail way like 2 kilometers from home. And I was determined. I was like, this horse will canter for me. Like I was in that mode, right?
Oh, wow. Alexa, okay.
I was there. And back in the days of the natural horsemanship and get her done training. Oh yeah.
Oh dear.
And
okay.
So we're cantering through this trail and Diva is mad. Oh, she's mad. And she is going pretty quick.
You had a good clip. You had it coming.
And
you had it coming.
She left, 3 inches between my leg and the saddle, 3 inches. And my whole leg just went behind me, like at a good, canter gallop. I thought it had
You're
been
vaulting
torn
now.
off. Oh yeah, completely.
You're vaulting. Yeah.
I had to look down and go, is it still there? And that walk of shame home, Lockie, was something else.
Wow.
Because
humbling.
I climbed off of her and I sat on the ground and I screamed and sniveled and whined and went, help! Nobody came, not a soul. Nobody,
She knew no one's coming for
Nobody's coming for you, lady. And I just sat there feeling sorry for myself, finally dragged my butt up, started hobbling for home, trying to look, of course, putting on a little bit of a show, like I'm just dying here, right?
Look what you did to me.
Completely. Yeah. And so someone would take pity. Nobody even looked at me. I walked past like so many people. They did not care. And then finally I just looked at her. I was like, can I please get back on now? Because I was really a kilometer and a half from home. And she looked at me and she's like,
are you going to behave yourself?
Are you going to behave yourself? Yep.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
I climbed back on side saddle and rode her home because I couldn't use that leg.
And I bet she carried you home like a
Oh,
queen
she
then.
carried me home so sweetly.
Yes,
And
of course.
I just was like, and during that ride home, I think that was the epiphany of,
Wow.
this
Listen.
does not work. I need to listen because
We are not smarter than them.
exactly. And she's telling me this is not okay. And really, think about that action. It was not okay what I was doing. But that is what I'd been taught, and this is how you do it. And she's like, no, not happening. And from that,
and I bet,
yeah.
I bet she had tried hundreds of ways to tell you nicer.
Oh yeah.
And you just went past it. And she went, you know what? You're not listening to me. So, right. Okay. You want to escalate? You want to escalate pressure? Bring it. Right?
Yeah.
And we are not anthropomorphizing here, because you and I both know, because I presented on your apprenticeship, right? That on an emotional and instinctive level, the horse brain and the human brain are biologically similar, that the differences are almost negligible. We are different in the way we process abstract thought, but at an emotional level and at an instinctive level, we both have more or less the same evolutionary brain strata, right? So when we say that she was feeling a certain way about you and triggering certain instinctive responses based upon those feelings with a modicum of prefrontal cortex decision making, because horses do have a modicum of it, not as much as us, but a modicum of it. Absolutely, that was spot on. She was doing the equine equivalent of a Karen, I want to speak to the manager.
Yeah. This is
absolutely
not okay.
Yeah,
not
I
okay.
want to speak to the manager. And it's amazing. Like, if I was scanning my thought, another mare I used to work with, because I've got 2 geldings, right? But before my first horse became available for sale, I'd been trying to buy him for 3 years, and the owner just wouldn't let go. They had this fantasy that he was going to be the perfect horse, and he just wasn't. Everyone was trying to convince them that this horse is Lockie's horse, you need to sell him. 3 years, I was struggling. So in that 3 years, I really thought that my horse Sanson wouldn't come to me. And so I was seriously shopping for other horses. And there was a stable in Poland at the time that I used to go and visit another gelding at, this Dutch Warmblood. I used to go take him out every weekend. And they had a Anglo-Arab mare, a Malopolski mare there. Very small, light, jumping Warmblood type, chestnut. No, she wasn't chestnut. She was like a middle chocolate brown color, beautiful, with a white star. And her name was Duma, which in Polish means pride, because she was that and a bit. Mm-hmm. And she was bred by the stable's owner and started by the stable's owner. And she said she's great with children, but she's so much of a better horse than just like a kid's lessons horse. And she's been the most difficult horse in my life to connect with. But once you connect with her, it's just like on another level. And we'd love to see her in a private home where she's not having to do kids' lessons all the time. And if you're looking for a horse, we'd love to like present her to you. And would you want to get to know her? So I did. So I used to spend my weekends with Duma at this place. And this mare, she took one look at me and went, oh, you reckon you're the horsemanship guy? Great. Try and catch me. Try. Uh-huh. Oh, you think you're all that? Great. Try and catch me. And then she's like watching she's eating, and she's got an ear and an eye on me the entire time. And I just walk up there with a lead rope. All the horses there were incredibly gentle, living outside all the time. And she just went, oh, you just made a mistake in your body language. A tiny one. Guess what? I'm going to move away from you. And she had me running across that muddy field, knee-deep mud, for an hour every time, until my body language was so spot on that she could say, I saw no problem with that. There was no mistakes. Okay, you can take me now. And that was amazing, because I thought, God, how many mistakes have other horses been making up for me? And so that was great for me. I actually really loved that. It was a pain in the ass at some level when it's snowing and it's knee deep mud. And you're like, I really just want to get to know you. Like I'm not trying to hurt you. And she'd say, no, your body language isn't good, so I'm just going to walk away from you. And we got there. And I remember there I was, all arrogant, young, probably I still am on some level, but anyway, we're growing. But I saddled her up one day and I took her to the little arena and I thought, oh yeah, you're used to being with kids who pull on your mouth, blah, blah, 'cause she had a snaffle bit. And I thought, let me show you what good hands are. That's what I thought, right? So over the top. I thought, let me show you what good hands are. And I sat there, I took my best possible seat, and I thought, I know you're really particular. I'm going to be so soft with you. And I took a very soft loop rein contact. And she just went, she held the bit in her tongue, yanked the reins out of my hand with her chin, and then put herself back on the bit and kind of said, this is a contact for me. Like she just like, it's almost patronizing. It was almost patronizing of her to say, you're an idiot. This is contact for me. And that's all she did. She just yanked the reins, put herself back on the bit and continued moving forward and wouldn't let me take more than that. She showed me and I thought, okay, you're the teacher here. I'm the idiot. What can you teach me?
Mm-hmm.
And that mare just had the best walk I've ever had in my life. She just went out in the forest and her legs were just like, pop in and out we went. She had a wonderful canter and I could tie her up in a tree and I could go swimming in the river in the springtime in the middle of the ride on our own, and get back on her. And she was totally cool with that, totally fearless. But I didn't end up buying her because I had my osteopath friend come out, look at her and actually diagnosed a lameness episode 6 months before it came on. She went, oh, this mare's going to go lame soon. She's got this, that, and the other. So that was a pity. And then Sunny became available and I sort of went away from mares. But gee, I am desperate my next horse will be a mare for sure.
Mm-hmm.
For sure.
Yeah. Yeah. It's interesting. I would love to get back. I know we want to talk about some other things today too, but my mare Raven, I've been tracking her very badly because I'm really not good at tracking stuff, and I'm trying to get better at putting things in my calendar and getting the timing right. But one of the things I've noticed with her is this, and maybe this will help others out there that are having a similar experience. So her symptomology, I believe, of her heat cycles, I'm starting to believe now, are very, very different than what I had seen in the past or sort of expected, as far as like what we see, the mares like just grumpy and ears back and sort of the touch and all that sort of thing. Instead, she has this thing that happens where she actually, number one, her smell changes. So she literally starts to smell different. I can like tell right away. She gets this sweet smell.
Wow.
And so Raven also has arthritis in the coffin joint on her left front. So the other thing that starts to happen is she doesn't show body soreness in the same way as another horse might. Like she doesn't show flinch. She doesn't shy away from touch, but for her, it'll come up like subtle ways. Like she'll get a pulse in that left front foot. Her poops will go runny.
Right.
She doesn't want to move out. She gets more, like you said about food, where she's more possessive of her food. These sorts of things start to happen. And I want to share that because it's a first for me to see this in a mare, these specific types of symptoms.
Right.
Where, I initially had attributed it to like, maybe she had once had a parasite infestation. Maybe this is a bloom happening, things like that, but it's too consistent. It's her cycles. So, and it happens more in the spring, of course. So, now that she's been in my life for about a year and a half, I guess it's coming up on 2 years, I'm really seeing, and she'll go from super happy, super sound, super, free in her body to like, don't make me move anywhere. Yeah. I just can't. So I just wanted to share that because I'm finding it's even new for me to see some of these
Yeah.
pieces and
Yeah.
relate them back to her cycle and her
Yeah.
hormonal changes,
Yeah.
and the change in her arthritis, the change in her soundness, things like that.
I'd
Yeah.
I'd love to see. I need to do some research. That's one thing I'm going to do on my next research day, is do some research and see what studies have been done on the symptoms of mares in cycles or the effect of cycles on mares. Or I want to see what has been done. Probably there's a lot been done in the breeding sphere, but that's still kind of like, okay, we're using them to exploit them to make more babies, right? But has there been any research done on mares and what they need, what their symptoms are, specific for the mare's well-being? Has there been that research? And if there hasn't, any animal scientists, researchers, data makers out there, go for it. Like
Yeah.
there is a hungry market out there
Yeah.
who want a book that says symptoms of mares, how to manage mares, and just providing really clear information, solid education
Yeah.
about what mares need. We all know about stallion pens. Why don't we have cycle pens? Why don't we have cycle buddies, cycle protocols that, oh, there's the symptoms of a cycling mare. We move her to the special barn where she's got her Netflix and chill and her chocolate and her foot rubs and her bath and her ibuprofen and
And
her
her
hot water
best
bottle
friend
and
and
her best friend. All the things I used to do for my female friends growing up when they were having their bad day, I would, if they were at my place or we were living together, I'd take care of them. Like, why don't we do that for mares? We have stallion pens. We have, like, for robust geldings that do that hard rage play all day, we let them do that because that's so essential to their behavioral, social, emotional development. Why aren't we doing it for mares? Because they are suffering because of it. Why are there not more mare support herbs? I mean, they're out there. Why are there no procedures, medications that can assist
yeah.
mares? So that's my challenge. I'm going to throw it out there in the universe, and I'm going to do a little bit of research, my next research day on it, and see what's there.
Yeah.
There might
I
not be
mean,
much.
I'm thankful out here. We've got some really good herbologists and nutritionists that are creating
Yeah.
accessibility to some really incredible products. So, with Diva, I have her on Chase Tree Berry. Raven tends to love her raspberry leaf. So I
Right.
harvest and dry raspberry leaf every year for her and give that in handfuls.
Right.
And that's really, it's just
Helped.
really nice stuff. Yeah. Yeah. It's really helped. They really like it. I mean, I love that herbal side of things. So I'll do, like, for any of you out there that have like big willow trees around you,
Oh
just
my God, Willow's the
go
best.
and do cuttings of your
Yeah.
new growth on your willows and just throw them in your paddock. Not a ton, maybe like 5 sprigs per horse kind of thing, but it has a aspirin type quality that's really amazing for
Yes.
inflammation. And they love it. It's like something different and new. And I've been seeing, some photos of even paddock paradises where people are starting to grow in,
Herbs.
browsing areas in their paddock
Right.
paradises. Because Raven has taught me so much about browsing. That mare loves to browse, and I don't know if it's a Canadian horse thing. So the history of the Canadian horse is a little fuzzy for me, but one of the things I do know is the ancestry is basically out in the Ontario, Quebec winters, which are harsh, -30, and these horses would just be turned out like, good luck,
Chilling.
everyone. Like,
Just chilling. Yeah, they're
yeah,
out there
right.
chilling.
And they had to, Raven, if given a choice, she won't eat down, she'll eat up.
Wow.
She'll eat up. She wants to eat all the trees. I used to find her at my other farm down by the lakeside, and she'd just be in amongst the blackberries with her head up a tree. Like, I wouldn't even be able to find her. She'd just be out there in the forest. And I'm seeing more and more people creating like forest tracks and things out here because that's sort of the terrain that we've got. And horses,
Yeah.
I mean, Raven's favorite, Salal, Oregon grape is one of Diva's favorites. The horsetail for silica is, and then ferns even. So when, letting our horses, when we're out, if we're a trail rider, let our horses browse, like enjoy the medicines of the land, because especially mares will pick and choose. Raven will choose, like, she loves mint. She'll eat it right out of your hand. Comfrey, mullein, these sorts of things. And I'm, it's a little different now where they're at, because I used to have a herb garden right next to them. And so Raven would just stick her head over the fence and eat the lemon balm and the comfrey and, get into the mullein and nettles. And
this might be the motivation I need to, like, get into gardening.
Right? Yeah. It's so good.
Because I wouldn't get into gardening to, like, make my lettuce, but I'd certainly get into it to make a herb garden for my horses. So maybe that's the motivation I need. Right?
I love it. Yeah, I'm happy to help. But I think having that access and allowing them to choose, like, I never thought that Raven would eat mint out of my hand, but she has digestive stuff. So of course she was like, no, like, she loved it. Right. So when you let them choose, they're so brilliant and instinctual about what they actually need for their bodies, if we allow them to choose. And I think with mares, that's what I found with my girls, is I asked them on a very regular basis through muscle testing, what they're needing, any changes that are required in their diet, what supplements going to work well for them. Do they want any herbs added in? And trying to kind of offer up, as much as possible as far as different forage possibilities for them.
So important.
Which is so, like Raven will, at the other property, if we had a storm, she'd go around and eat all of the fir branches, which initially I kind of freaked out, because she smelled like a Christmas tree. Like, literally her breath smelled like a Christmas tree.
But it's the vitamin C.
It is.
She's taking in the vitamin C to get through the storm.
Completely.
To get through the storm.
Yes. So she would medicate herself afterwards. It was great. I didn't even clean everything up. Right. And she would self-medicate. Yep.
Rose hips just before the winter hits.
Exactly.
They go crazy on it. Absolutely.
Yeah. So no, I think it's a really, that's well worth researching. Juicy subject, literally. And we do have out here, I'm so thankful for, there's a company, Reva's Remedies, and there's other companies that are really jumping on board of supporting mares with herbal medicine.
Not everyone has access to gardens or wild places that they can get these things. Yeah.
But if you guys, one of my faves is nettle, stinging nettle. So
oh, really?
Yeah. Stinging nettle is one of those ones that it often grows on farms and people hate it. So just harvest it with gloves, dry it in the sun. And as soon as it's dried or cooked, it loses its sting. And it's the most amazing for trace minerals, iron. It's a blood cleanser. So it's an incredible one to offer to our horses. Yeah. And so there you go.
I used to have, when I was in Poland, there were a number of companies that you could just buy herbs for horses in bulk. And I used to buy herbs by the kilo.
Yeah.
And I had like a herb bar. I got one of those huge IKEA bags and like little Tupperware boxes. And I loaded these Tupperware boxes with like a bunch of different herbs, whatever I could afford at the time. And I'd say like once a month or something, I'd bring it to the stable. I'd find like a nice quiet place and I'd lay out the boxes on the ground and I'd just let my horse choose what he wanted. And people were like, what the hell are you doing? And then when I told them, they're like, oh, that sounds really fun. And then other people started doing the same, right?
Totally.
It was sort of a thing everyone did. But I've got a draft horse with this huge nose. And when he smelled these herbs, he'd go, and half the herb would like exit the Tupperware box. And it was like, that was just like 10 euros you just splashed on the floor. And then I am sweeping up after him. And it was so interesting to see like in the different seasons what he went for. And nettle was one of his favorite things. Yep. It was one of his favorite things he went to again and again. Never did he go for the chamomile or the dandelion. He just didn't go for that. He did occasionally go for willow bark. But the nettle, he loved the nettle. Yep. He really went in on the nettle.
And it's a good taste. It's like a nutty taste. Also for women in their cycles, nettle tea or raspberry
Right.
nettle tea
Right.
for you gals, or cook nettle into, like spinach, like steam it, because it's that
Right.
iron, right? And it's that good nutrient. So I've just been reading this book. It's I have to talk about it because it's called Natural Born Heroes, and it's so freaking cool. I think you need to read it. Anyways,
Okay.
one
What's
of
the
the things,
author? Let
yeah,
me write
it's,
it
I
down.
don't even know. It's on the table out there, but it's amazing. And it's talking about
What's it called?
natural born heroes.
Okay.
And it talks
Natural
about
born.
going back to the land and like, not in the like like commune kind of sense, but like what it means to move and commune and like connect with the land. And one of the things they talk about is like eating wild edibles and eating wild
Wow.
greens, and how potent like those things are partners with us and get in terms of giving us nutrient and life, like vitality. And how,
Yes.
the stuff we get in the supermarket is good, but it's not
Gross.
the same as
No, it's not
that
the
kind
same.
of like, wild,
Power.
yeah, power. So yeah.
Our ancestors were probably burned at the stake in Salem in the 1600s.
Oh, definitely.
1000%. 1000%. You know, I remember when I used to live in Switzerland, I lived in Switzerland for 2 years. The springtime in Switzerland, like in many places in Northern Europe, but Switzerland in particular, is just like Disneyland springtime on steroids. It's just amazing. And you'd walk through these wild, like these semi-wild parks and places, and there'd just be herbs growing everywhere. And there was this one herb that used to grow called Bärlauch, and it was like this long, sort of green, soft tongue that sort of came out of the ground like a tulip leaf, but it had like a strong garlic flavor, and it only grew for like 2 weeks in the spring. But I would go out there like a witch, and I'd be picking baskets of Bärlauch on the weekend like a crazy
Mm-hmm.
person, and be making pesto out of it and putting it in salads. And it was the most delicious thing. And apparently it's like endlessly good for you. And I really miss it. It makes me
Yeah,
miss.
I was gonna say we do that
Yeah,
with nettles here. You'll see so many people out harvesting the little nettles. And in my new place here, I have a beautiful nettle patch, which I'm stoked about. So I'm going to be making pesto
that's
and
so cool.
medicines and things from here.
So cool.
So cool. I want to make sure that we have a chance, Lockie, because you were wanting to talk about one of your newest courses and sort of your newest pet, or like newest
Maybe.
interest, if you want. If you want, you can
Alexa,
feel.
I'm just happy talking to you. We don't have to, I don't have to plug anything. I'm just happy talking with you and being on the podcast. It's just a pleasure. If we wanted to spend the entire time exploring mares, that's cool too. If we wanted to talk about herbs, that's cool too. But yeah, I mean, yeah, so I'm just in the process of releasing like a super mini short course. I've got short courses and I've got medium courses. Now I've got like a super mini short course. I'm talking like under 90 minutes of material because we're all kind of busy, right? And I've sort of structured it in a way that instead of doing what I normally do, which is like 20-minute lectures or 20-minute demos, I've broken it down into not longer than like 5 minutes per video so that you can
Yep.
kind of get through the coursework easier and navigate it a little bit faster. So apparently that's what marketing people tell me I should be doing anyway, but okay, I'm late to the party. But something came up, I think, over Christmas through social media that a bit like the mayor's stuff, people really responded to, and it was reinforcement schedules.
Mm.
One of the most common questions I get from people when they're coming to coaching or even sliding into my DMs is, can I use food unpredictably without ruining my horse? Can I de escalate the amount of food rewards I use in training? How do I do that? That's what I want to do. How do I do that? How do I structure it? Does it make sense to a horse? Blah, blah, blah. These are the questions that I get. And yeah, I kept doing more and more research, and I came across something from B.F. Skinner himself, who is the father of operant conditioning. And operant conditioning, we know, is that describes the four quadrants that within it is positive reinforcement. It's a form of what he describes as radical behaviorism. He called his approach to behaviorism radical behaviorism. And he is, don't come canceling me. This isn't my idea. This is his quote. He believed that internal or emotional motivations for behavior were a myth, that self-determination was a myth. He's been proven wrong. B.F. Skinner was right and wrong. He was right about operant conditioning. He was wrong that internal motivation doesn't exist. Motivation is not only extrinsic, but when we are motivating extrinsically within the environment and we do choose to use food rewards, we have more options than clicker training. We have more options than marking wanted behavior and sculpting wanted behavior. And those options for the use of food reward was actually described by B.F. Skinner himself. And some trainers talk about it, but I don't think it's been talked about enough. So I just went ahead and said, oh yeah, I can present that to people. So I've just sort of pulled it together and I've tried to translate it, because at the beginning, it can be a little bit confusing and a little bit woolly for people to kind of really grasp it. So I've tried to simplify it and break it down into a step-by-step process. And then I just went ahead and demonstrated it with my horses. And it's just like R plus. They are scientifically guaranteed responses with 4 different applications of food rewards. You could almost call it, there's the 4 quadrants of operant conditioning, and then there are let's say the 4 paradigms of food reward and how that can show up. And there's called variable ratio, fixed ratio, variable interval, fixed interval. And basically ratio of reward is marking wanted behavior, and you have fixed and variable. And then interval training is you're not marking wanted behavior, but time spent doing behaviors, or time spent in the training, and you're not marking wanted behavior, but just marking time, which is something I love doing with my horses. I love just marking them for time spent rather than specific behaviors. Both are good. So I've presented this, and the course is about 75% complete. You're the first to know. I haven't told anyone yet. But probably next week I will release it to my Patreon subscribers for a discounted early access. And then probably the week after, I'll open it up on Instagram, and there'll be if you get in early while I'm still finishing the course, you can get in for a more affordable rate. But the whole course will be sort of well under €100, because it is a short course and hasn't created, I didn't take a lot of time to pull it together. And I've tried to keep it really succinct, because it just sort of answers the most common question that I get. And instead of doing it one by one with each person that comes, I just thought, let me create a resource that people can access for a really affordable rate, where this is explained to them in layman's terms and given them options beyond pure click marking behavior. So yeah, that's coming out next week. And of course, within it, it's like an emotional horsemanship mini course. So within it, of course, I'm involving my horses and emotional awareness, and transcribing that there is a lot more to horses than pure and radical behaviorism, that there's a lot more going on, and when does that show up, and in which gaps in the behavior does that happen, and on what level do you need to finesse this, etc. So all of that is involved as well. And it's kind of exciting. Just life just kind of dragged me that way, and I'm like, oh no, I need to make this. So I did.
Sweet. All right. That's amazing. So for anybody that's listening to this podcast, it's probably going to take me 2 weeks to get it up, because, let's be real.
It might be out by then.
Yeah, it might be out. So check Lockie's page.
I could wait.
Yeah. And so that's great. That's as someone who well, like I said earlier, discipline is, and consistency is not my super fortes. So I tend to be a high variability food rewarder, more because I forget to bring treats, or I forget to use treats, or, all those things. So
this course will actually kind of explain that to you, remove any potential shame you might have over being variable with food rewards, because there is a way to use food rewards variably that has been described by the father of operant conditioning. Because I have seen posts about people who literally said, really well-known R plus trainers who literally have said, do not trust anyone that promotes the unpredictable use of food reward. And I'm like, whoa. BF Skinner actually describes a way that you can do it. Like it's not a bad thing. It just requires more emotional maturity from the horse, and you actually have to structure the way you do it and like know what you're doing with it. But it is possible. So again, it's not necessarily my idea. I have transcribed it and I can demonstrate it with horses, but it's sort of just presenting the
Yeah.
science. So yeah.
Awesome. Cool.
Mm,
Thank you. And thank you for this conversation.
my
It's been
pleasure.
grand.
Anytime. Anytime. Let's just check in anytime you want.
Amazing. I really appreciate it. And I appreciate the advocacy for mares and for all you mare lovers out there who are like, yes, I've got, a little more ammunition when someone is trying to label or box in my horse.
Right.
Yeah. And also more compassion for, I know that's what it's really developed in me, is just more compassion. I know how I feel when I'm cycling. Yeah. And I know what I want and
Empathy.
need. Right. And so it's
I
empathy.
take empathy
Yeah.
really seriously.
Yeah, exactly. So
Mm.
bringing that to the table more and more on so many different levels. And I'm grateful that you've highlighted this, Lockie. Really appreciated.
Well, thank you for giving me an opportunity to highlight it again.
Yeah,
Mm.
absolutely. And we will be back because we've got lots more to chat about.
Definitely.
Yeah. And good luck with the farm hunting.
Thank you. I'm seeing four places tomorrow, and all of them have blackberries on the hedgerow. So I was
Excellent.
I was pointing it out to the estate agent today, saying the blackberries are really good for horses. See, they're like medicine for horses. And he's
Yep.
like, okay, like he just doesn't care, you know? Yeah.
Yeah, for anybody that's concerned if their horses eat blackberry, don't
No,
worry.
go for it.
It
Yeah,
is
they're
good for
fine.
them. It is good
Yep.
medicine. Yeah, let them eat cake, so to speak. So yeah, no. And go to Lockie's Instagram if you want to watch his house hunt. I mean, it might be done by then, but I'm following along vicariously and
At the
going
moment, it's just a
drooling
lot
over
of
places.
pictures. It's just a lot of pictures of like pretty pastures because we haven't found a suitable house yet. But yeah, we're getting close. We're hot on the trail.
Yeah, well, one of these days I'm gonna
Mm.
come over there because that's
Oh,
on
I'd
my
love that.
bucket list. So yeah, it'll be
Awesome.
great. Yay. Okay, everyone. Well, thank you for listening in today, and we'll see you again for an episode very soon.